I always like to talk about this because I don't think that anybody had thought of what about the children of the pagans or witches, and I like to put this title as protection of the children, to love and protect, because the care of the children is a special and sacred responsibility for any parent. But parents, teachers, and anyone in a position of authority over children, pretty much all adults, must respect and protect children and young people. Lots of weekends have children, and they are precious to us. One might expect a witch-raised young person to be a little different from the average kid, and we think they are. They tend to take after their parents. They're independent-minded, individualistic, resourceful, and very strong. Most Wiccan families encourage their kids to follow their own dreams and to think for themselves when it comes to religion. Beyond this, it is quite difficult to generalize about pagan children and youth. Only a few decades ago, most people who came to Wicca had been raised in a mainstream faith. Now we're seeing a generation of young people who were raised in the craft. They're teaching us, the elders, what that means and how they will tackle life's challenges. We hope to stay tuned as the new generation brings Wicca to the next level of evolution. How about familiar? In every movie I have ever seen, the witch always has a familiar. Especially black cats. Some witches do have black cats around the house, and so do some Methodists. Many witches have cats of other colors, and many witches are really dog people. Some witches put up bathhouses and other bird houses. The occasional witch will enjoy the companionship of a snake or 6. Then there are witches who live with hamsters and gerbils and poodles. Virtually every pagan loves and respects animals, both wild and domesticated, and will share their homes with the tamer ones whenever possible. A shaman friend rehabilitates injured raptors and always has a few owls and hawks and crows around the house. Another friend supports a sanctuary for wolf hybrids. My family dog, and I have 3, but my own dog, which I call my familiar, his name is Neutron, and he has read and approved this message. So what do familiars do, and what always next to a witch? A witch's familiar can be of any animal, but often they're cats, dogs, or toads. In some of the old Burning Time stories, they have names like Pyewacket and Greedyguts. Technically, a familiar is an animal that helps the witch in her or his magical work and is not just a pet, because animals have keener senses than humans. They can act as sentries and let the witch know when a spirit being is close, or whether the energy is positive or negative. Some familiars can help with grounding energy, and some can even assist with divination or love spells. Now, how animals and gods are related. Many or most of the pagan deities have their own favorite critters. So, for example, cat lovers will want to talk to Freya, the Norse goddess of love and war, or Bast, an Egyptian sun goddess in a cat's body. Do you like dogs? Well, hang out with Artemis or Hecate. Horse people will have much in common with Epona, from the Celtic tradition. Rhiannon, which is also Celtic tradition, or Poseidon, a Greek sea god. You can read about Athena and her owl, or Odin and the Morrigan, and their ravens. Bridget loves boars and foxes and farms animals, and so on. Seems like most pagans, divine or mortal, are animal lovers. How about witches in the workplace? Ooh. What do witches do for a living? Almost anything. But we do seem to be strongly represented in two areas. One is healthcare. Doctors, nurses, doctors of Oriental medicine, chiropractors, massage therapists, medical technicians, naturopathic doctors, herbalists, Reiki masters. The list goes on. After all, we do have a very old tradition of healing, originally as the wise women and cunning men in rural villages. The other field that has lots of witches is technology. Computer programmers, web designers, online networkers, and so forth. Well, just because we are tree huggers doesn't mean we're technologically backward. Quite the contrary. Wiccans can be found in almost any field. Whatever field you're in, work consciously with respect for the planet, knowing that all people and creatures you interact are sacred. If your employer has a recycling program, promote energy conservation, use cleaner materials. Do they treat all people well, regardless of race, religion, gender, ethnicity, or sexual orientation? Is your employer way out of line with your values? Can you help them to become greener or more respectful or compassionate? If that's not possible, where are you at your job? And if your job is not the work you dream of doing, what is your dream job? And why aren't you doing it? Now, how about money? Well, most witches believe in the abundance model of the universe. The goddess will provide. She will give you what you need and a lot more. This contrasts with the common scarcity model, which proclaims that resources are finite, competition is natural to humanity, and that this is a dog-eat-dog world. The abundance model doesn't mean you can be careless or spendthrift with the resources. It means that with wise planning, careful use, and minimum waste, there will be enough. We should reduce, reuse, and recycle, because this is kinder to the planet. Truthfully, there's also something related to poverty and spirituality. This is a mentality among some Wiccans, and it has been a recurring theme in religion for millennia. However, poverty means inadequate housing, poor nutrition, lack of health care, limited education, and crime, and none of those promote spiritual growth. Now, in some circles, wealth has a bad name because people see it misused. We see a lot of conspicuous consumption in our society. For example, presidential candidates with 7 houses, corporate executives who make millions every year even as their companies fail, people who have several fancy cars, folks who gamble away thousands in an evening. But in fact, money is neither good nor evil. It's just a tool and another form of energy that can be used or misused. Remember that a witch has the use of all things, but is addicted to none. Money is fine to have, and spend it when it's in service to the goddess in all. It is not fine if it addicts you or corrupts you into a greedy, selfish, and wasteful person. A custom popular with some witches is called tithing, the ancient idea of donating 10% of one gross income to a spirit, usually in the form of charity. It makes us think about what is really important and deserves our support. It encourages you also to be more careful with the income that is left. It doesn't require sacrifice because according to the law of return, our generosity will return to us 3 times over. Now, this is a thing that I found interesting. And when I work with people in my private life and as a therapist, I see this a lot. And I have to say myself, I have fallen to this before, which is that many people feel they don't deserve abundance. Maybe you're one. If your beliefs create your reality, then work on believing that you're sacred and deserving, and that it's perfectly fine to gather abundance if it's well used. So be a rich witch. Well, it seems like we're starting to get a little bit into political arenas, but I just wanted to touch a little bit on what are the views in consumerism. So you know what consumerism is, right? When somebody's telling you all the time, new, improve, on sale, buy this, buy that, buy more clothes, more food, more cleaning products, more cosmetics, more electronic communication gadgets. All our people in these industrialized societies are consumers of products. But how do witches relate to this buying and selling frenzy? There is no simple way to explain Wiccan attitudes towards material possessions. On the one hand, just like anybody, we like to enjoy the material world and all the sensual pleasures associated with it. We have no belief that earth is sinful and heaven is pure, or that there is a division between the material and the spiritual. So eat, drink, and be merry, and enjoy things while you're here, as long as no one is harmed. But that's the tricky part. As long as no one is harmed. On an overpopulated planet, if some people have more than they need, does that mean that others have less than they need? Is there plenty of everything for everybody, such as food and water and energy to go around? More and more people have to think about the impact on the earth in manufacturing, transporting, and possessing stuff. So we are asking some of the tough questions. Where does the product come from? What is the cost to the planet? Including the carbon footprint involved in gathering the raw materials, the manufacturing, and the transport of a product. What is the impact on the workers who make it, move it, and sell it? What does it do to the planet due to its operation or functional lifetime? What happens when it's no longer usable? Can it be recycled, or do we throw it away? Instead that we know that there's no way. You know that, right? And if we did to have a certain product and made it and use it only locally, then what will be the effect on the planet and humanity? If you want to explore some more of these questions, there's a great website called www.greenamericatoday.org that you can check it out. Now we try to kind of relate to our little marketplaces or merchant rows. I personally go to the flea market as much as I can and try to buy fresh products from mom and pop stores or just in the flea market. You can find colored festive clothing, polished stones, drums and flutes, soap, ritual tools, and all of them are handmade and unique. Well, I hope that you enjoy some of our views in consumerism, familiars, children, and wealth, and also witches in the workplace. In the next video, we're going to explore transportation and where the hat or pointy hat came from. See you then.